I gave the introduction of like if he wants to listen, he or she, or if they want to listen, then they can, or if they want to join in, then
And then I did my bad
either way
habit thing,
works.
and I just invited him to speak anyway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hi,
But yeah,
Henry.
no.
But we were having I find it interesting discussion because we actually haven't really talked about our businesses since we started this podcast, really.
Mhm.
So,
Maybe this is our fourth one. We've started it pretty much all of January, so is this our fourth or fifth one? We kind of should do an anniversary, Amy. It's not fair. Also, oh, I am Tiara in this time. I'm not speaking spades. Yes, my name is Tiara. That's nice. Cool.
yeah, I
So
was wondering.
usually I use my I use the Speak in Spades account, but I'm actually using Tiara Teacher account, which is great. So I'm Tiara, and there's Amy. As you can tell, I'm extremely nervous because I have nothing to say after that.
No, like, okay, so Henry, you, please introduce
Go for it.
yourself.
To introduce myself? Sure thing. Yes. Hi, you guys. Again, my name is Henry. I prefer pronouns they, them. I'm from Orlando, Florida, here in the U.S. I speak English, Spanish, and Portuguese, and I hope to one day speak a lot more languages as well. When I find the time, I'm studying Italian. I'd like to lean into Peruvian Quechua as well. Japanese, Korean. I mean, I think every polyglot has like an amazingly long list somewhere, like in their notes or something. And I definitely have mine, but it's whatever I have time for, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much my whole thing. Language learning, linguistics, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm a graduate student working on getting my master's in Spanish linguistics. So, yeah,
Ooh, are
that's
you
me. I'm glad to
planning
join you.
on doing anything like tech related for like computational linguistics or?
No, and honestly, when I've been looking at all of these other people on Twitter who are into linguistics, there are so many people who are into computational linguistics. So I feel a little bit like, I don't know, like, what's the word? Not underdog, like outcast? Not outcast. I guess outcast, but you know what I mean. Like, because I prefer sociolinguistics. I think that's such a cool field, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it, like not enough people. But yeah, I'd like to focus on sociolinguistics if I could. Yeah.
If it is a linguistics talk, I am so glad to have you here. I really like social linguistics, and I love comparative linguistics, which is something that I worked on in college. So I studied Latin and Ancient Greek in college, and I minored in linguistics, but I did a lot of comparative linguistics work with dying languages, not like officially dead, but there's really small communities of speakers, and then like modern languages, and how like culture is something that we lose whenever we lose a language. And in time, we're going to be using the big 25 or even up to like maybe at max 50 within the next 20 years. A lot of languages are going to die. And so I really like the sociolinguistic aspect of the comparative linguistics field that I studied. And it's so important because a lot of people think that last week's talk actually was about how closely related languages and culture are. They're intertwined. It's hard for us to learn more about them. You need one for the other in a way. Certain words are connected to specific cultural foods or specific cultural rituals, even, or habits. Oh my god, I have a burp. I'm sorry. But just in general, there's so much that people miss out on when they focus on, like, as much as I want to be interested in computational linguistics, which I mean, I am interested in it, but I kind of wish that it was cool to also be like, hey, comparative linguistics, kind of important. And also, I wish I could get paid to continue studying this because there's a lot out there for us to learn before it goes away for good. Um, for reference, like one of the languages that I studied, I mean, I actually did a Wikipedia page on, was for Frenchville French, and it was in Pennsylvania. And how cool is it that this French is the closest relative to the French used in the 1800s, because they immigrated into this one area in Pennsylvania, and it was surrounded by mountains and like train tracks, and the train track area got it was abandoned. This is a cool story I never told you, Amy, but yes. And so I had a class that was for documenting a dying language, and I chose Frenchville French because there were only two native speakers left. And while I was writing the paper, one of those native speakers died, and the other one was 80 something, and maybe this person died also. But there were 200 people who can speak it, but not at a native level, because English took over, because Pennsylvania. So back then, like, the interesting part were like certain words like corn or things, popcorn, or even more modern things that they had in society, they didn't use the English word. They tried to preserve the French and make their own words to the best of their abilities, but even the grammar and the pronunciation was from the 1800s. So interesting. And I would love to continue writing stories like that, but, you know, they don't make the bigger bills, or it involves a lot of, you know, going on site in order to be able to document things before they die. But it's equally important, of course, Henry.
Oh my gosh, I'm like nerding out here on mute. I'm like, oh my god, like she did not write about all of that. That's so cool. And I love learning about, or just hearing about other people who are doing language documentation. I'm in like little linguistics groups on Facebook, and I'll see the other people documenting, you know, endangered or dying languages. And it's just so interesting to see people in working with language restoration try to respect the culture like that, and try to not just like anglicize the words that they incorporate in, or use loan words into the language that they're restoring, and just respect it. And like, okay, you know, I don't know. I think that's such an important concept, and I love that you brought that up. But I also love that you brought up, you know, this is such an interesting field. Comparative, can you remind me of what it was that you said? You said comparative culture?
Yeah, comparative linguistics.
Comparative linguistics, sure, okay. Mm-hmm. I think that's such an interesting field. Sociolinguistics, so cool. Language learning, like, I love all of this, but I'm so glad that we were talking about making this type of thing a business, and how do we pay the bills and still learn about the really cool history of everything. Like, as a graduate student, I'm not really sure what I want to do with this, because I have a lot of passion for these things that we're talking about, but like, it doesn't really pay the bills to just like sit in the library all day. So I don't really know like what to do with this.
See,
so, yeah.
I know, right? Like, how do you make money off of language learning? That's why I made GlotSquad. Like, sorry, I interrupted you, Henry.
No, I'm just agreeing. Sorry, go for it.
So, yes, Tiara, that's an amazing story, and that's one of the reasons why I made GlotSquad, and we have Dialects, because you need to know, like, I want GlotSquad to be a place where, like, spoken-only languages can also, you know, become their home. Like, people, like, that are a part of, like, very small dialects, they're always like, oh, well, no one wants to speak this, like, you don't need to speak it. But I'm like, no, like, that makes it even more, like, interesting to polyglots. Like, I want to learn it. Like, this is part of your cultural, this is history. Like, it shouldn't be lost to history. So, for myself, I was a linguistics minor, and most of my linguistics is internalized at this point, because it was in 2008 when I graduated, so it's just me and like what I've really encountered in the world at this point.
That's really cool. So all of us in a way have some experience with linguistics, and not just from like learning a language aspect. But one note extra for Henry too. I do believe that the field that I studied was a cross of comparative linguistics and sociolinguistics. because this kind of field kind of works with, again, being on site in order to be able to document stuff. So for me, I kind of do third person writing on Frenchville French. I didn't go to the area, but there were some documents already prepared for some of the sound differences or grammar differences, and taking notes of why the language was preserved the way it was. So I think it has to be a mix of the two. But yeah, for the new listener, feel free to continue listening, but if you would like to join in on this conversation, you can request to speak. It's completely up to you. Just glad that you're listening, and I hope that you enjoy the topic so far. I hope I said the right thing, Amy, but me and Amy do these talks once a week, and the topics could be pretty much anything. We kind of think about what are topics people in the language Twitter or like language learning fields might be interested in, and we just basically just want to talk to other people because we're bored. Is that the way that we want to talk about it, Amy?
We are building an empire and I want to prove that people are actually interested in learning like meta linguistics. This is basically what this is. It's talking about how to learn and like the study of language learning. Just throwing this out here, you might hear this again if we get more listeners, but we're doing an English conversation space tomorrow morning. Basically an English breakfast, because I'm going to be eating breakfast while we do it. But
yes, I forgot. That is night.
Yes.
I mean, no, morning in your time, but it will be night in my time.
So it'll be
for the listeners, I am in South Korea, and it is already Tuesday morning here. And so by the time tomorrow morning happens, it will be Tuesday night for me. I have to keep track because I'm always calling my family, and so I'm not sure what time it is or what time zones the listeners are in or speakers now that they're both speaking. Hello, that's amazing. But yeah, so it'll be night for me, and around now is the holiday season because it's the Lunar New Year. So I have 3 days of vacation, and I love it so far. But hello. Would you like to introduce yourself, or you just want to jump in whatever you want to do? We're here.
How are you, everyone?
Did you want to, you can say your name or just in general anything about you that you think it would be good to know for us to continue talking.
From Pakistan, I'm a front-end developer. So basically, I didn't know a thing about the linguistic field. That's why I'm just listening.
Okay. So I don't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. And then I have a question for you after. Was that okay? I think that might have been it. So you said you're a front-end developer. I had a student today in my English class who does UX, UI design. I might sound like an idiot right now. I really don't know much about the field. Are they similar? Does it have a lot to do with linguistics? Like, could you explain a little bit more about what it is that you do?
So basically, I don't work on a UI UX. Because UI UX is totally different, as I know. Because front-end is all about we have provided the UI and UX designs, and then we have to develop it. Like I develop in React. So just do my coding stuff and designing stuff also. That's all about my field.
You know what? That is a perfect question because I am extremely interested in UX UI design right now as far as like the coding realm, and so I didn't know about the difference between the two, and I didn't, like, you asked and I would have asked if you didn't, so thank you. You know, but it's amazing. So anyone can listen to our talks, and I'm glad that you're here to listen on this topic. I hope as we continue talking, it'll be interesting to you, and it's just cool whenever I see people who are doing things similar to what I've done or similar to what I want to do. And so it's great. And maybe at some point a little later, me and Amy will talk about our platforms. So both of us are developing language learning platforms for different types of learners, or the same kind of learner, but at the same time, just extra resources or extra ways to solve some of the issues in the language learning field. And so we'll talk about that too. But yeah, just really cool to see that there's different aspects of linguistics for people who are interested in these fields, and just being able to talk about them just randomly. Like, it feels like I'm not in college, I'm not in university, but it's helpful to see that other people are interested in a field that wasn't as popular when I was in school. Yeah, go for it, Henry.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, even in my own university, like, I just graduated in December with my bachelor's degree in, Spanish, with a focus on linguistics, and also a certificate to teach English abroad. So we love it, lots of language everywhere. Very excited. But even just as I was graduating, they just added a minor for applied linguistics. I'm like, oh my goodness, you had to wait until I was on my way out to add this minor that would have been so perfect for me. Like, are you kidding? So I was kind of bummed about that for sure. But I wanted to ask about to Amy and let me see. I'm sorry, Tiara. Okay, Tiara and Amy. You guys have been talking about your platform and how you're trying to reach different types of language learners. And I know you both mentioned a little bit about your different experiences getting to, where you are today. I was wondering if you both could speak a little bit about like how those different experiences kind of shape the apps or platforms that you guys have made into what they are today, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. So I'll let Amy talk about hers first, because she kind of added me onto her team, if you will. But I do have my own platform, but I'm really excited about hers too.
I would absorb all of you into my project if I had enough money.
Okay.
So, I'm not even going to lie. Like, Henry, if you want to, like, just start making YouTube videos about just like the different languages and just, or like just do the same video in different languages about whatever is interesting to you, because I'll watch it and I'll want you to put it on my platform. So
Thank you. No, just real quick, side tangent. Today I was working on building like the little image for a podcast I'm starting on italki. So hey, listen, we will be in touch. Like, I'm here for it, absolutely. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Tell your story, Amy. Go for it.
So, like, do you want like the whole story, or like?
Start from when you were born.
When I was born, okay.
When your parents had a fire in their eyes.
I don't like. So, literally, there was a Japanese teacher, and I was very excited to learn from this Japanese teacher. But this Japanese teacher died when I was in 8th grade, so they all of a sudden didn't have any Japanese teacher for high school. So they kept the Japanese program. Like, you could go to Japan for $500 if you applied, but you had to take Spanish for 3 years. So I did that. But then in my 3rd year of Spanish, the Japanese bird flu happened, and they canceled the trip. So I was like, I'm going to college, I'm going to learn Japanese, I'm going to live in Japan. Except 3 years into my Japanese study, I was like, I know nothing about China. So I took 1 year of Chinese, I fell in love, wound up working in China. But like, there's not enough support for Japanese and Chinese and Asian languages. And I just got so angry with it. And after living in China for 3 years, it felt like I was either going to be an English teacher for the rest of my life, or I needed to figure out what I wanted to do with, like, have a real career. It's like, there's nothing wrong with being an English teacher. I just, like, you don't make enough money to make it. It's not a choice after a while. Like, you have to either continue doing it or, do something else. So I wanted to make a language learning platform, and it's taken me this long. Like, I went back, I got my master's degree in management information systems. I was a database engineer. I wound up being a Ruby on Rails, which is more full stack. I did some front end stuff. Now I'm like firmly in the front end. But I've had many years to like to just philosophically go through like, what do I want this platform to look like? What do I want the interactions to be like? What do I want the community to be like? And so I'm at the point now where my skills are good enough that I can just do it bootstrapped, which is, I mean, I'm by myself, so it's a little bit slow, but I'm building in public, so I'm hopefully people will enjoy the journey, and by the time it's something good, I'll have users, and then we can do some of the crazy stuff that I want to do. Right now, with GlotSquad, there's one activity, and that activity is, if you're on your desktop, you can give it some sort of a resource, like a newspaper article or a blog, and then you can highlight the words that you know, you don't know, or might know. And the words, they populate at the bottom of the screen, and then you can click on the words, and it gives you pictures instead of the definition, and for words and phrases, and it helps you not switch between your native tongue and your target language. So it helps keep you in the zone, but also helps break up, like when you're learning, like when you're doing your sentence in their paragraphs. Like, to me, like, so I read in an article one time that if you don't understand 80% of what you're reading, it's too difficult. Like, you can't understand it and then you give up. However, most of the stuff that's easy enough for me to read, it's been like infantilized. Basically, like, I'm not a little kid. I don't want to just read fairy tales. I don't want to read like I'm okay with fairy tales. I like them and everything, but like, I want to read realistic things. I want to read like a tweet. So to me, like that, like being able to translate a 250 word tweet and like kind of know what's going on because of the pictures, and being able to like mostly understand what's going on, that's more valuable to me than most of the other stuff. So I have other activities planned, things to help with listening and speaking. I just have 2 jobs and a side project, so bear with me, but we will get there, and I'm really excited. One of the things, like, Tiara's been helping me with using Spaces to get more of a community going. So we're on YouTube, and we started a podcast, like the same content. This space is the content. So hopefully there, and starting like a blog this week. So we're going to try all the things to spread everything everywhere.
That is a lot of French, because I heard a lot of we, and you're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. For me, I come here, I talk, and somehow she loves me enough to continue having me on her platforms, which is amazing. No, we are working together, but I just want to acknowledge she's been doing a lot of work. I'm always grateful for it. My story is kind of interesting, kind of long. It started in New Jersey, USA, and I was in a bilingual town. So a lot of people spoke Spanish and English in my area. And I mean, I could have chosen to not study Spanish as hard as I did when I was young, but I feel like it came from being competitive with Spanish, because you could go down to the bodega, or even there were a lot of supermarkets like Bravo or some other places where a lot of them were Spanish owners, and they spoke Mexican and Puerto Rican Spanish in my area specifically. So going to school and like starting the Spanish classes in 3rd grade, I was one of those, I'm following the Spanish teacher after school. I joined every club. I asked questions before and after our classes. I was the teacher's pet for Spanish, because I knew, like, in lunchtime or when I want to go down and order stuff, I want to be able to speak in that language instead of just English. As a little kid, I was like, English is boring. I already know it. Let's move on, kind of vibe. So it was cool to see some of my hard work pay off, and I stayed in that hometown up until my junior year of high school. So during that time, I really liked talking with people who spoke a different language, or there were some exchange students or international students that came to my middle school and they spoke different languages, and I tried to understand them. So I briefly learned a little bit of the language spoken in Ethiopia because in my high school there was a student that came from Ethiopia and just didn't speak much English. And it's a sad truth, but a lot of students, if they don't have something familiar with that student, they just tend to go away. But for me, it was my addiction. I was like, this is perfect. You're different from me. That means I have a lot to learn from you, and vice versa. We became best friends, and I learned how to write it, and I learned how to read it, and I gave up on it because she moved and I moved, and we didn't talk after that time. She was my only friend from Ethiopia. But I realized a pattern because I moved to a different area. I couldn't use my Spanish as much, which, Henry, I would love to just talk with you regularly to build up my skills again. But either way, I moved, and the first day, there was this friend, really incredible, really kind, really loud. She was fun. And during lunchtime, she sat in a table filled with Haitian students. So I'm sitting in a Haitian table, and what do they speak? Creole. How amazing for someone who didn't study Creole. So every day that year, I had to learn Creole because otherwise I'm in the same situation as elementary school. And that's no fun. And I'm competitive, right? So I took on that challenge. Absolutely no one said that I had to learn it, but here we are. I mentioned Latin and ancient Greek, so I have to go back a bit. In high school, I went to a Catholic high school before I moved. So the reason why I moved was because the Catholic school shut down before I could graduate. And in that school, we had religion class. And in the religion class, there was a poster, or two posters, one with Latin and one with ancient Greek for scripts from the Bible. And I was really interested in the Bible. I still am. And I'm interested in it, one, because I am a Christian, but not as strict as some people. I would say spiritual Christian. But also, a lot of the stories were translated from these two languages, in Arabic and a little bit of Hebrew, not a little bit, but I was really interested in ancient languages, especially how they looked. I thought it was cool. They're kind of the birth of languages, if you will, but I decided to study them in high school as independent study, and my senior year, they were like, no, those don't count. Great. So I studied Spanish again, and then in college, I had a love-hate relationship with Spanish, so I studied Italian and Latin and ancient Greek, all three of them, and I studied abroad in Italy, and that was really great for all three of the languages I studied. And again, I talked a bit about the linguistics courses that I took. It was so close to being my major. I mention it every week to Amy because of how upset I am, because I really love linguistics as a field. And I was 2 classes away, but my senior year of college, they didn't offer the courses that I needed to turn it to my major. And I was trying to double major, so I had to turn linguistics to a minor. Otherwise, I would pay an extra year's worth of tuition to have these 2 classes to make it a double major. So that's my experience with languages, but even as I say that story, there are so many other languages I learned just passing time. I was a resident assistant in school, so I had an international student from Japan, really loved Japanese culture anyway, and so it was cool to be able to have conversational fluency in Japanese during that year. It was really fun. And then I still talk to him too, but not in Japanese anymore because I'm in Korea and I'm studying Korean. And I've been studying Korean for 3 years, and it is by far the hardest language for me to learn somehow. So last year I had reached the top of my frustration. I've hit a plateau, or this mark where I can't get past this level of speaking. Some people say I speak really well. Some situations I feel like a fish out of water and I don't understand anything. And so I made a workbook for myself for being able to practice stuff, because I'm the kind of learner that, like, I'm the learner for other languages where I use resources or books or I pay for certain things and it's easier for me. But for Korean, it just wasn't working out that way. I was feeling stupid. I spent at least $300 on books or programs and I never finished them, or I just felt like I wasn't good enough for them, and then they never helped me get past this level. So I made a workbook for myself, for practicing, because that's where I needed it most. I don't need to translate Tom ate an apple yesterday. I need to figure out how to say I want an apple tomorrow kind of vibe. So the workbook is so true. So the workbook was for me, but I realized I'm not the only one that could use this workbook. So I have the workbook on my website, and again, I mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but my page is called Speak in Spades. So the website is Speak in Spades. I have a Twitter for Speak in Spades, and I'm basically a language cheerleader. I like saying language cheerleader more than coach because I really do want other people to reach their language goals. And so for my website, I have resources, like a bunch of resources. I started this journey in November because I realized I have a direction for how I want to create a platform. So ever since the beginning of last year until November, I was just sitting on this workbook and I was like, all right, well, it's there, but I don't know who needs it and when and why. But I figured out my why in November and started. And now the website looks extra cute. I have characters, there's a theme, it's great. You can take quizzes to figure out your language learning style. And this is the core of everything on the website. Basically, everyone can learn a language. And it's not just about your like resources that everyone knows, like Duolingo or Babbel or Rosetta Stone. But if you know a little bit more about yourself, it's a bit easier for you to incorporate language learning into your lifestyle. A lot of people try to separate language learning from their other hobbies, but you can use your hobbies to study your language, or just in general, there's so many ways that language learning is a way to like build on the things that you already love doing or the things that you're already interested in. So the learning style theme or concept is that you have a way to learn languages. You just have to find it by looking into yourself a bit more and what works for you. If you've studied languages in the past, how do you figure out what you liked and what you didn't like and what you would like to try for this language? Or, people think that it's separate from the way that you work in school or work in your job, and it's not. If you're not a schedule person, then why are you doing something every day? Or if you're a person that needs structure, then why are you like doing free form stuff that's freaking you out and now you never reach your language goals? So I created 4 learning styles, and each of the learning styles represents one of the suits in a deck of playing cards. So you have the club, the heart, the diamond, and the spade. And you take the quiz, and then it's really cute because you could be like, I'm a club, or I'm a heart, or I'm a diamond, and you learn about that learning style. From my experience as an education major, sort of in college, I took it from the teaching methods and teaching approaches and connected them to what I think learners engage with from those teaching styles and turned them into personalities. And there's resources, there's blogs. I have a language boot camp for people who just need an extra push. The money goes towards the t-shirt and other resources you get for completing the challenge within a month. And I'm working on a deck of playing cards that connects to 90 language challenges, and it's incredible. Like I'm working on it now, and again, it just takes a community and a lot of talking through what people want to see in resources for language learning. I feel like the field has kind of gotten a little boring because people are always talking about the same big 5 resources, but there's so many more out there, and there's so many more creative ways to incorporate language learning in what you do. So it's a lot. Both the story for my life and the story for the website are long, and even if you look on the website itself, the wording is a bit overwhelming, but I tried to make it pretty with characters and a lot of colors. Red and pink are my least favorite colors, but they work so well on the website that I don't mind looking at them every day if it means other people will benefit from them. So yes, that's a lot.
That was
but
amazing.
I hope it's useful for people.
I just wanted to add that the space that we're doing tomorrow is experimental, and we're going to be posting about Coffee. Sorry. Basically, it's like a donation site where people can buy you a coffee. So I'm hoping that people will find value in that, and basically you can do group tutoring through Twitter Spaces, which hopefully, Henry, you find that to be interesting. Like, you could probably do a Spanish speaking space, have it I don't know if you have enough followers to make it a ticketed space, but you can always, there's like the tip jar. I'm not, I just haven't looked. Do you have enough? Okay, you're not there yet. I'm sorry.
I was just like, so funny, but no, you're completely fine. Like, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Sorry, that sounded more dismissive than it was. Just I haven't looked at your profile, but no, I have. But basically you can activate the tip jar, and you can just like, I'm curious how people, because spaces are free unless they're ticketed, and I've never joined a ticketed space because I've never wanted to know anything from a ticketed space that, like, people are saying things for free.
One thing, Elise has something to say. I think he has his hand raised. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you can speak if you wanted to.
So I had the conversation, and it was really a motivational experience of your life and the idea behind of these platforms. So basically, as a language story, my mother tongue is Punjabi. So in our national language, so we speak Urdu, and our courses are also in Urdu and English. So when I'm 2 years old, I moved to Saudi Arabia, where we speak Arabic. So I have a mixed touch of Arabic, Punjabi, Urdu, and some English. So that's these things very interesting to hear that you are really working hard and prove yourself. So I'm just a beginner. Hopes I will do well and learn more. And Amy, I have some questions about your system. As you said that when someone translates something, a sentence or a tweet into another language, it converts into a picture. So how the picture, let's elaborate the meaning of the tweet or the text. Can you explain?
Okay, so basically when you highlight the word, it goes the phrase, it goes to the bottom section, and then when you click on that, it searches an API, and it comes back with a relevant picture, at 3 relevant pictures, because if you have like 3 to 10 pictures, then you can look at the different pictures and be like, okay, well, that's what that means.
I get it, what you said earlier also, but my question is that how a person can understand this picture means that.
Oh, so have you ever heard of Rosetta Stone? Rosetta Stone for language learning?
No, I've never been on a store.
Okay, so the Rosetta Stone language learning app, it has this theory that people actually learn better when when you're exposed to a word with an image instead of with a definition. Like, your brain remembers it better, and you begin to associate the word with an image, so it's a faster recall. So my big thing with Rosetta Stone is they always use the same picture to mean the same word. And when you look at a picture, it's usually like there's more than one thing going on in a picture. So I find it interesting. Like, you can, I've done this with GlotSquad, with the journal tracking app, where I'll think, because I usually do Chinese, so it's harder to figure out if something's a phrase or not. So like, I'll know what one word means, and I'll know what the second word means, and then I will look at them both together, and a different picture will come up, and I'll be like, oh, well, that means endangered animals. So, like, it's actually really cool how you can, like, not know what something is, and then all of a sudden you see a picture and you're like, right, that's what that is. Like, literally, I have a YouTube video on my homepage of my thing where, like, one of the words is, like, bug, and the other one is rare, and then they're all together, and I'm like, it's a picture of, like, a panda, a tiger, and then just, like, an endangered species list. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what that means.
Okay, okay. Thank you for explaining. And thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think that it's cool because Rosetta Stone, I used it for Japanese. Like my parents, they thought they were doing the best thing in the world. So they gave me a Japanese Rosetta Stone when I was in high school. And all of the words and phrases were connected to pictures at that time. And I didn't understand what I knew and what I didn't know for the same reason that Amy mentioned, because they would use the exact same picture for each word. So on the one hand, it's good because in the beginning you could get the base level of some meanings of words and phrases, but then over time, when you're building longer sentences or when you see it in another context and you're using the exact same picture, it could be confusing because the meaning is different now, or sometimes you think you understand it one way, but then it doesn't translate in other ways. I don't know how to say. I like her resource because when I used it, it was useful for getting the feeling of words with more than one picture. So there was a word for food, and instead of just showing me a word that said food in English, or instead of showing me like a menu, it actually showed me 6 different pictures of different types of food. So it had like fruit, vegetable, drink, all of these things, and it gave me a sense of this is the general word for food. So I really like that, and I like the way that so far the one exercise for journaling is really good for figuring out what words you know, what words you need to work on, and what words you have no clue on that you can try and search later. If you are a person that needs to see translation from one language to another, you could look it up on your own, but it won't exactly show on the source. So it'll just separate the list of words that you know, don't know, and are familiar with, but it won't give you those translations at the bottom. So it kind of keeps this sense of everything on this page is in the language I'm learning kind of vibe. So I like it.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot for explaining everything.
Yeah, no problem. And so I think one thing too, I don't know if you're able to do that same thing, Amy, because for me, I'm still trying to figure out how you work magic and pin tweets to a group chat. But either way, I am just really glad that both of you were interested in our content. And so if you're able to take a look at them, or if you feel like not today, but another day, if you want to, again, definitely, Henry, I'll be looking out for your stuff too, since I know that you're also a creator, and I can't wait to see what you do. And again, it is hard to break into, okay, you have something that you love. How do you turn it into something that you love and can live off of? And it is a scary process because I'm going through that myself. I've been here for 3 years, but this year I'm planning on going back home and possibly moving to another state too, because my family moved during this time that I've been away to a different state. So I don't know which state I'm going to. And on top of that, all of my experiences are related to teaching English. And exactly like Amy said, it's like you have a choice. You can either continue being an English teacher, or you can go into a new field and basically you have to start over, or you have to figure out a way to turn your passion into something that can sustain you. Like, on the one hand, it would always be nice to be rich off of stuff, but I also want to make sure that these are the things that I want to do and can give my best effort and energy and give the best products for. So I'm really excited to see what you do, and even for everything that you do too, Elise. And this very new listener, like, I want the best for everyone, and I hope that you're able to turn your passions into something that you can use to the best of your abilities. And the knowledge you have with multiple languages oh, the places you can go. It's amazing. So I'm grateful. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Not you hyping us up. I'm like here being motivated. Oh my goodness. Thank you for saying all of that, and thank you guys for sharing your stories, of course. That's one thing I love so much about the language learning community and, linguistics community. We all have such global stories, and it seems like a lot of us find our home in a lot of different places, not just where we live or where we're moving to or where we might teach, but also, this culture caught my interest, and my friend speaks this language. Why don't I speak this language? Or how can I learn this language? Or, well, why is it so hard to learn that language? What's different from mine? I just think that's such a cool thing to think about. So thank you guys for sharing those stories. I love listening to it. I think I wanted to jump in about something else a second ago, but I think I might have gotten distracted, so I might have to come back with what I wanted to say. But yeah, thank you guys for sharing your stories. Real quick, while I remember, could we revisit about how to use the coffee tip website? How does that work?
Okay, yes. I actually had another tip for you, Henry. I'm just very excited for you. What can I say? So if you're interested in UI and UX, I would recommend you learn Figma. And if you need help with spellings and stuff, just DM me and I will definitely lead you on the right path. My main account is in my profile, but that one's my tech and business account. So learn Figma, learn Bubble, and you'll be fine. But Twitter has a tip jar, and I learned actually how to do it today, and I was going to tell Tiara because it involves things that I don't have I don't have a Bitcoin wallet. There's 7 different things that you can hook it up to, and 4 of them at least are cryptocurrency. So, but I think one of them's Cash App. But it's in your profile. Everybody can add a tip jar if you hook it up. But it's kofi.com, and it's basically they don't take any commissions off of what you're doing. So if someone gives you $1, you get $1. So it's kind of like Patreon with no strings attached.
Oops, sorry, I thought I was unmuted. Okay. You were saying, no commissions, but were you saying that it is with cryptocurrency that you're receiving it, or it's something else?
Sorry, I'm very, very confusing. So with the Twitter tip jar, basically you can go onto your profile right now and edit your profile, and there's a tip jar section, and if you turn that on, you'll see the different choices that you have, and that has here, let me go there because I just looked at it very briefly. So you go all the way to the bottom, it says tips, and mine are off, and it has you can use Strike, Bandcamp, Bitcoin address, Cash App, GoFundMe, Patreon, or Venmo. And I have none of those things, which is very sad. So, but I will before next Tuesday morning. So that's through Twitter. So when you have it set up, it will be on your Twitter that people can just tip you. I don't know how much Twitter takes from, if they give you $1, you might get 80 cents. I'm not sure. But with coffee, it's pronounced coffee, but it's spelled, I think it might have a dash in it. Let me check. ko-fi.com, and it's basically just another way to get tips.
So as you can see, I'm learning from Amy, and this is the reason why I'm here every week. Understanding. I still don't understand why she loves me so to keep me here. She doesn't need me. I'm just entertainment.
You're enthusiastic. No one showed up for 20 minutes. I would have been very nervous by myself. You keep me company, and you're very good at keeping me on task, and you're my accountability buddy. You know, like how they say, like, diets are better when you have a buddy. You're my, like, language partner.
The buddy.
Yeah.
Tight.
Linguistics business buddy.
That's amazing. Thank you for having me. I am your buddy, too. You're my buddy. We're buddies. Thank you for joining us as we continue our buddyship. That's what today was. Strengthening our buddyship. Oh, but no, seriously, it's been a wonderful time talking with y'all. If you have any more questions, we're ready. Again, this is something that we try to do every week around this time. And now, like today in my time, but in the morning y'all's time, I'm guessing, would be the first time that we're doing English talk, which again, for the English talk, Amy, we might have to like be a little bit more clear when we speak. Because here we're kind of speaking, normal pace. Like, of course we're not going to make the language like less natural, but at the same time, right now I'm just using my not teacher voice. So we might have to tap into our foreign language teacher voice to make ourselves more clear. And if people have questions about what we've said, like I say certain things like fish out of water or these kinds of things, we might have to explain them or just take note of them if we want to explain them. I'm thinking, but either way, we're here every week for this time with a different topic, and the topic can change. I noticed that Amy changed the title of this talk at least 15 times during our talk, which is great. I'm not that skilled to do things that fast. The last time it definitely didn't just say linguistics, but you changed it enough where I don't remember what it was before, so this is good advertising. Please come over. You're more than welcome to join every week or whenever you have time. Tell your friends about it, or if there's good experiences, you can leave a comment to kind of keep our reviews going, because we just like creating these comfortable spaces to talk about anything. And again, you can see it in my post. I'm truly just a language cheerleader, and I'm just glad that y'all like talking with us. So I'm amazed every week because it's like, oh, people came. That's amazing. That means they are interested in what we have to say. Be interesting. But I'm grateful. So thank you. That's my closing remark. Check us out, and yeah, I have nothing but the best for everything you do in the future, and I'm just glad that y'all chose to spend an hour with us. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you have any requests for next week on what we should talk about, we are definitely 100% open.
Go ahead. Always go ahead.
You both just great, and I just love how you explain things. And I wish you got an Ethereum chip, 10 Ethereum chip for your next phase. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
100%. No, you guys were saying, like, okay, I'm surprised people show up every week. Like, I need to share this with everybody. Honestly, like, I am that person who is so annoying with my friends about, like, language learning and everything. And I'm just so happy to find people who are, like, equally as passionate about it. So definitely, like, count me in for the other meetings. Excited for the English learning space for sure. I don't know, just thank you for holding space for us today. Thank you guys.
It means the world. It's truly just, that's our purpose. When we started this, I hunted Amy down and we were just like, she had this idea of meeting every week, and we're just surprised every week with the conversations we have and the communities we're able to build. It's just really nice to see it every week. So please keep coming. That's the goal. And we'll probably have a record of this by the end of the year, like how consistent we've been to do this every week. Amy has been my accountability partner, so I'm looking forward to seeing how much we grow this year. So thank you so much, and yeah, see you next time. See you soon if you're coming for the morning one, or see you next week. And you can private message me. I'm going to accept the follows. So this way, if y'all private message me with any ideas of what you want for next week, or you can tag or anything, then that's one way to do it. Same goes for Amy. And yeah, let's just keep promoting each other, just keep lifting each other up in these times, especially with the virus, So thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep being like, okay, let's end this space, except I'm the only one that can, actually end the space. So everyone, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early. Good night. Bye.
Bye.